Welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves as self-help for people, self-help for people who are navigating herpes stigma. If you are someone who found value in the information that you receive here, the website, surveys, podcast, I invite you to consider making a donation just to continue to support our efforts. Um, where do I want to start? Really, just picking up from last episode because I just finished recording it and I saved it. Um, I want to just go ahead while it's fresh on my mind and talk about the next segment of what I want to speak on in relation to my own personal dating experience. So I talked about how essentially we really need to be our best, and I would say that this podcast episode is more for men than it is anybody else. Um, and I think, maybe there's something to learn here for uh, people who aren't men who listen to this podcast episode. But ultimately, man, what I've really learned is a lot of the issues that we have in dating, myself included, isn't necessarily problems with women or arguably even dating culture. Like I'll shit on hookup culture because it's collectively really dictated by men. Like men really decide what the dating culture looks like. And we can say, oh, women, dot, dot, dot. But what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing is that that's not an issue. Like for men who know what they want and stick by what they say they want, the women or your partners, whoever it is that you're with, is going to, Mr. Lucario says this, get on your program. And if you don't have a program, the default is dating hookup culture. The default is looking for the next best thing. So it's not about exclusively, whether your program is good or a fit or whether what you have going on is, something that aligns with the woman you're with. Because the thing is, if she like you, she like you. And it don't really matter as long as there is a plan in place. And what I consistently hear from women is that a lot of times that the man that they're with doesn't have a plan, or like they're stringing them along, or they're playing games. So I kind of want to dissect what playing games looks like, and you can identify playing games real quickly with just inconsistency. If you're dealing with a man who's inconsistent, then that's what it is. I talk to a lot of women who date men who are like, I just don't want to have to make decisions. And this is a very common thing across the board from people who date men. And a lot of the men that they date leave them with having to make too many decisions. I mentioned in the last episode where I wasn't asking questions, and I was doing more leading, and I was repressing anything that was feminine in me for about a month of time, and that the results were amazing. And I was able to say, hey, this is the kind of relationship that I'm looking for. And everybody was on board with it. Everybody's like, okay. And it still blows my mind that worked. But I guess that's just like the nature of relationships. When we look at how, someone who dates men, if you date men, you want to date a man. It's not you are wanting a man who is also these things that contradict, what it means to be with a man. And having experienced that myself, I just recognize that like that ain't me. And I see why a lot of the relationships that or the dating relationships, whatever, where I get along best with the people or they're the healthiest are typically where it's a queer woman, like a queer woman, bisexual woman, or pansexual woman, any of those things. Wait, pansexual? Yeah, pansexual was right. Um, I just, those relationships tend to be the healthiest and like the easiest for me to navigate and the most communicative. Um, and I guess it would be because they are not exclusively, by default, drawn to only masculine features or behaviors and things like that. Like, I look very masculine and dominant, and I have that, but there's still also this emotional awareness and intelligence aspect of me. And I really want to shout out to my friend Erica, who listens to the podcast, and she always hits me up and is like, man, this thing you said, dot, 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 because she also said to me, she was like, you don't have to play that game. And this was the first time I ever thought about that, like not playing the game of acting one way so I can get what it is that I want, and then I can go into being my real self. Um, that don't work for me. That doesn't work for. I mean, it works. It works for me to get what I want, but it doesn't work long term, and it's not a sustainable thing. So I recognize that, like, that's what's worked for me is surprising the shit out of queer women that I've been in relationships with, who see like this masculine, dominant, strong, deep voiced person. And then, I fix my lips to say something and I'm like, oh, consent, or oh, sex positivity, or oh, um, negotiations. And that's what like draws people in a way. Excuse me. So that being said, going back to the whole reason that I'm talking here is because, like, we as men, we are the ones who dictate this shit. Like, we got to get out of this whole. I hear men bitch about women way too much, and I'm not gonna sit up here and say that I've never done that, because I don't think I've ever bitched about women. I think that what I have done in adulthood is try and assess my role in my lack of success with relationships or dating. And I'll say, since doing that, like, I have come to realize a lot of my own shortcomings, and the consistent thing that these, if I were to take all of these like traits and put them in one, it's that I have not done a good job. I've not initiated. I think I've mentioned this before, but like, I don't typically initiate relationships, partly because I don't have to. But in that, like, I am succumbing to it's just the nature of the dating world, and I'm not making it on my terms. And that's part of like what the power is of being a man. It's like, all right, I create this structure, and somebody who's on board with it is going to get on board with it, and people who aren't on board with it, I won't know they aren't on board with it because they just won't show up here. Or, I'll extend the invitation and they'll yay or nay at shit right away. And so I've not been one to initiate, and I've recently gotten better about setting expectations, even though I've fallen short. The example that I have here is just like most recently. I think I told y'all, Instagram is the best dating app. Like, you put yourself out there consistently as yourself, but the only problem that I face with it, with pursuing or having partners through Instagram, is that you see enough from somebody to where you think you know them, and then it feels like you don't have to get to know them. And I think that that's something that I faced consistently in dating and relationships, is like, I don't feel like anybody's like trying to understand or get to know me. And I don't want to say anybody, but majority of the relationships that I've had where I met people through Instagram. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some great ones. There are some that still are going on. There's a connection there. There's a relationship to some extent there, even if sex isn't involved. Friendship, relationship, connection, whatever. There's a sense of safety and reciprocity in there as well. And this allows you to put yourself out there. It allows me to put myself out there in a way that dating apps just don't allow. And again, just going back to the whole thing about as a man and needing to be the one to spearhead, the what this relationship is and what it's gonna look like. And it's like I have this solid ground for what a relationship will look like and the framework for it, and whoever I invite in, to test it out and see if they're on board with it, like more often than not, they are going to be on board with it if they like you. That's the key part. If you are at your best, like I spoke about last episode, if you are at your best, then whatever it is that the program is, you're going to begin to attract what is best for you, and you really shape the frame of what that relationship looks like. And I don't want to hear none of that sexist shit or that's misogyny or patriarchy. I don't want to hear none of that shit, because that's the reality. Like, I have had too many conversations with people, even the people who are out there screaming patriarchy, misogyny and shit. Like, they still like men. They don't like the kind of men who are succumbing to what the shit that they preach. Like, perfect example is who is it? Sierra, the singer. She is married to Russell Wilson, but then is like encouraging independent women and just being like, yeah, you don't need no man, y'all don't need no man. And then she goes back home to her man, her husband, at that, right? And yeah, man, it's like on social media, on the internet, there's a market for it. There's a market for independent women. There's a market for not need no man. There's a market for screaming at patriarchy, white supremacy, and all that shit. And in the real world, it's just like it's peopling in the real world who have like whatever their issues are that they are facing and have to face, and like that's the reality that they live in. So it really ain't no time to point fingers at shit when you trying to get shit done. And a lot of times, like, getting shit done just looks like the natural progression of a relationship towards whatever the goal is. If you're someone who wants a relationship, who wants family, and I see a lot of men who just are like going with the flow, and this is something that gets talked about a lot in a lot of the reels and videos that there it go. Now I'm getting sleepy. All right. Yeah, like the whole go with the flow thing. I was speaking about the woman that I was talking to yesterday. She talked about having wasted a whole year of her life. And, if she were to go back out into the dating world and be like allowing for this to frame how men are in general, when the reality is this was just one dude who was wasting her fucking time over the last year, then her perception of dating, her perception of men would just be completely jaded in that. And, there's a number of different ways to go from there. But that's not the reality. Like, the reality is that I would say that the kind of man who would string a person along isn't a man, because men are historically like we're very cut and dry. This is what we do. We do what we do. We are who we are. We're disciplined. We're consistent. We're grounded. We're anchors for, and people are trying to change that. And as someone who has been changed in that, like, I still got my discipline and everything, but I'm much more malleable and adaptable than what your modern man is going to be, or what your traditional man, is going to be. I'm not your modern man. I'm not your traditional man. Like, I'm something else. Like, I'm receptive to new information that is going to change the way that I think, or the way that I approach Oh, okay. I accidentally hit a button. I didn't know what happened, or the way that I approach the world. And I really saw that when I went to that Sexpert Consultant Sexology Summit. I really saw it because I was the only straight dude. And, I'm still able to navigate conversations with people in the LGBT community or people who are mostly in the space, predominantly women. In fact, there was a funny moment. There was one of the workshops there where they were talking about. I got there a little bit late, and I think if I would have been there from the beginning, I probably would have left. But I got there late enough to where I was able to pick up on that. They were talking a lot about sexual trauma, and my sexual trauma is not near it's different, let me say that. Like me having sexual trauma versus all the women in there who had sexual trauma, it just looks different. So we had to write on paper what our fantasy was, right? And so we had to write it on paper, put it in this bag, and then we started you pull one, read it out loud. This was the exercise. So we're going around the room, and you're hearing these long, in-depth fantasies about things that partly have anything to do with sex at all. And I'm sitting there sweating bullets because I wrote down what mine is. And what I wrote down was it was free use. If you look up free use in whatever porn, like you'll see what it is. But we had to, and you have to raise your hand if you also fantasize about this thing. So we get to it, and mine was the last one. I was ready to leave because she was also like, "Oh, we don't have time to finish up. You know what? We'll just run over a little bit." And I was like, "Fuck." So somebody opened it, and they were just like, free use?" Like they were confused. And then she goes, "Oh, put your hands up if if you're into that." And it was just me putting my hand up. I just put my hand up, and then she explained what it was, and then like 3 or 4 more hands went up, but they felt like petty hands. Like it was just like, oh, I could be into that, and they put their hands up. But it was just a funny ass moment where I just realized I was like, I'm different to be in this space the way that I am. So I'm like in a room full of women who are in the sex education field or have an interest of it, and we do this exercise, and that was what happened. But anyway, um, I know that it's appreciated. Like I'm appreciated there, and that feels good because I had some side conversations, and these were with people who I was like, I thought that I wouldn't get along with because of what they talk about in their views, but they invited me in the conversation. They're like, hey, what can we do to get more men in this space, or what would that look like, or like how do you feel, especially as and they ask, are you straight? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, because if I wasn't, I have a fucking blast in this bitch. Not to say I'm not having fun anyway, but I think that there would be a lot more. I don't know, maybe I'd be in a relationship if I were like more open in that sense. But I think I'm as open as I'm gonna be. I'm very much able to navigate the conversations. I'm able to navigate the real issues that people have and talk to it from logical, reasonable, rational angles as well. And I think that's enough for me. But even here, like nope, not telling that story. uh, where was I at? I was talking about being a man, and essentially like being at my best allows for me to be trusted with the plan of action. Like I said, Mr. Lucario says, you need to have, she needs to be on board with your program. Like your program being, all right, this is what I do. This is my passion. This is my purpose. This is how I make my money. Here's how much time I got. Here's what we gonna do when we do have time together. Here's what we're working towards. That kind of thing. And a lot of men don't have that. And like that, and with lack of better words, whenever I like talk to women about their relationship issues, like it does stem down to that. Well, he doesn't know what he wants, or he's playing games, or it's toxic. These are things that lead me to say, like I've always said, like I think a lot of times, like the feminine has daddy issues with the masculine. Like there's trust issues. It doesn't trust masculinity. And rightfully so, because I mean, we've been fucking up. You know, I look at this red pill shit and it's like women this, women that. Like women are the problem. And it's not. Like women aren't the problem. It's that men who aren't being men that enable for like this problem to exist. Because more often than not, like I'll use this example, women with OnlyFans. If men didn't pay women's OnlyFans, then the women who have OnlyFans would more than likely be doing something different, right? Because I mean, I don't know too many women who pay for OnlyFans. I don't even know too many women who like are into visual porn. You know, like if there is audio or storytelling or erotica, that tends to have more of a draw to women than it does men. But men being visual creatures, you know, like on one hand, you've got the majority, let's say that like 85% of men, the general men, are going to consume porn. Of that 85%, we ain't got to do too many numbers and statistics, but you know, some are willing to pay for porn. And the kinds of men who are willing to consume so much porn and pay for porn and fund the lifestyle of you being able to make your OnlyFans porn is going to be like the kind of man who, if they were to, you know, have their shit together, like be able to pursue you in a relationship, get you in that relationship, and you would not really care to make money off of all men or as many men as you possibly can. And the men who, damn, dude, there's so much here to unpack. And I think that I don't want to cross over and tangle up different angles of what I'm trying to say here. But that's where a problem lies, like with the over sexualization, blah blah blah, whatever, however you want to word it. Because if like our meat, damn dude, I'm all right. Coach Greg Adams, he has this acronym MEAT: money, energy, attention, time. All right, and the way that men just waste that and aren't investing it into what's important or what's important to them by throwing it away to porn. Like porn is entertainment. It's not educational. And I think that there's an overindulgence in porn easily. Like I've definitely been one of the people to overindulge in porn. And I saw that there was like there was a shift in my relationships because I started to not invest my money, energy, attention, time into porn, and I was able to invest that into my friendships, my family, my passions. If we had more men who were doing those things, then more men would be attractive. It wouldn't be like this 85%, like your average man. In the last episode, I think I talked about how when you talk to the modern woman, what she wants is 6-pack, 6 feet, 6 inches, 6 figures, right? The sixes. And that's not most dudes. that just isn't. And it's like the way that people speak about it, our meat, if we put our meat into things that aren't our appearance, like you can't change height, you can't change penis size, you can change how much money you make, you can change how physically attractive you are. Like you can get in the gym and actually make changes in your diet in order to look more attractive, and you can also make a lot of money. So investing in those two things for your shortcomings is something that I think we see commonly, and these men then become that top percent man that is desired by general women who, you know, they are people who might have had shortcomings, and so they have these shortcomings, and then they get money, and now they get the women, and now these are the men who are also being inconsistent or flaky or treating women bad or whatever. And now these women who go after these like top men are putting that same filter onto the general population of men and thinking that this is just what's out there and how men are. But that's not the case. You know, the majority of men and I shouldn't try and speak to this in generalities, because I'm supposed to be here talking about my experience, but this is me speaking about, into and for the people that I've spoken to, and just speaking to these consistent issues, and hoping that how I share my experience, like, is you're able to weave that in where necessary, and also be able to see it from your own perspective. But I keep referencing that time period where I was just masculine. It was like, all right, I'm gonna be masculine, and that shit worked. And the thing too, though, is I think I realized, like, if if you watch any of the YouTube shorts or anything online about the average woman or the modern woman, there's no such thing as an average woman. The modern woman, they want these things, and I'm not these things. I don't have these things. So it's like I can either subscribe to the game, like I did, and I can attract that kind of woman, but that's not that's not sustainable for me. And I recognize that because most of the relationships I had have just like ended. I'm very fortunate that these women have been willing to like tell me, like, hey, I ain't feeling this no more, or whatever it was. And I think, that comes from, you know, them liking a certain kind of man. And that's that. But in what's in my wheelhouse, what's in my control, is being the best option. And I haven't been that. Um, for where I'm at, like, sometimes people can see where you at and look at you for where you at. Sometimes people can see where you're going and look at you for where you're going. And I think that I do a good job of continuing to move forward and progress forward. Because again, the trauma response is fight, flight, freeze, fawn, forward. To me, the forward response is, you're what would normally be a trigger for you and put you in fight or flight is something that you're able to stop, pause, examine, and then decide to move forward the same way you have, or to move forward in a different way. And that's where I'm at, like, as a man, utilizing and tapping into my forward trauma response. I'm working to be my best. I can't even say I'm working to it, because as things are happening now, I'm able to address them in the moment. So I would say I am at my best. And from being at my best, things are going to be added to, as they're added to. And it's not going to change, the essence of who I am. And since making the decision to be like firm in what my program is, I recognize that the people who do come in just are on board with it. And if not like short term, like, these are often situations that I can foresee. The vetting process. I don't do a good job of vetting partners and setting expectations. And that's really the core of what this podcast episode is going to be about. I said that this is mostly for men. Like, we really gotta do a better job of, we gotta lead, the feminine. And the feminine really does want to not have to make decisions, and it wants to be free flowing and be more artsy, creative, and expressive. But we can't do that too. We do that too. That shit's unattractive, right? So we gotta be anchors so the feminine can float off, and within the safety of the container that we create. The bigger container we create, the more freedom there is, and the more attractive that femininity is going to be to that masculinity. So it's very important that we are at our best at all times, and then whatever happens, like, we're adding to that. We got to be our best at our core, at our essence. It ain't a matter of I'm making the most money that I can possibly make. No, like, it's about who you are, and the sense of your values and the characteristics of yourself, like your leadership. What do you value? For me, I value transparency, consistency, reciprocity, maturity. I value liberation. I value peace. I value empathy. No, that's not what it was. What was the third one? Peace, liberation, evolution. I was like, empathy wasn't a value. But identifying where your value is, right? And then being able to, once you acknowledge and you're aware of and you hold true to what your value is, that's when you add those other things. That's when you add your money, you add your looks, well, you can't add height or inches. I mean, you can add inches and height, but it's less natural that way. But that is important, because I really genuinely believe that our essence is what people are drawn to, and it's just a matter of, you know, what keeps a person. I don't know. I haven't really cracked that code yet, but I know that it's important that we know our essence, and then we begin to be able to communicate that. So for me, being my emotional awareness, communication, intelligence, I struggle to communicate that. I don't know how to put that out there in the real world, because I think that would probably alleviate a lot of the issues that I have with dating. Is because, like, one thing is on Instagram, like, that's an easy way for me to just put myself out there. What I share, what I post, what I say, my body, all of these things are out there and on Instagram. But in the real world, like, I'm not going to walk up to a girl like, hey, girl, look at my Instagram profile and scroll through it and get an idea who I am. I'd like to take you out. Can't do that. Like, how do you demonstrate that when you're walking and, she's got her dog and you're like, oh, hey, I like your dog, or pet your dog. And also, by the way, I'm very emotionally intelligent and aware and available. What you think of that? Like, let's go out and get dinner. I don't know how that shit works. So that's the thing that I have to work on personally. Like, yeah, it's showing versus telling. I see a lot of men do this very well. If they have, like, a lot of money, they don't tell, they show. Because the minute you tell, like, that's a turn off for the woman. Or, even with looks, like being a little more modest about your muscles and shit like that. Like, if you're flaunting it, you might put off one particular vibe, but, if it's hidden under being well dressed, then, it's like an added bonus when you take your shirt off, right? Showing versus telling. And so it's kind of the same thing for me with the emotional stuff. It's like, all right, how do I show this versus being like, yeah, girl, I'm very emotionally available and intelligent and aware. Like, that shit it just don't work. Damn, 30 minutes already. Okay. The story, damn, the expectation setting, that's where I was going. So I ended up meeting somebody. She slid in my DMs a while ago. Didn't notice, because I'm very oblivious to, like, you gotta send me a titty pic in order for me to know you're interested, because I recognize that there's a line between flirting and, like, business. So I gotta be very careful with that. And one of my board members warned me. She was like, hey, you're getting more, big, popular in the New York Times and shit now. I had to throw that out there. And there are going to be people who have the ability to, like, come after me in a way. And I got to already experience this. Fortunately, it didn't go anywhere, and, like, I'm prepared if it does. But yeah, just like, I have power now. And that's a thing to be aware of when somebody may express interest in me, and there's a power dynamic that play and present. So I have to be the grounded person to set the expectations of, like, hey, I don't have the capacity for this, or hey, I'm interested. Here's what this would have to look like. Hey, let's talk about this. Or hey, we're gonna maintain a donor relationship where, like, yeah, I just gotta keep it friendly and be dismissive a lot of times. And that's kind of me knowing my program, but I'm a little bit shaky because I have to recalibrate that shit. Like, I hear from and talk to some very fucking beautiful women, like physically attractive women. And I have, like, my filters for, all right, what is dating, what's flirting, like, okay, this person's flirting, we need to have this particular conversation. So I've gotten really good about that versus just like not getting it wrong. Like I don't want to get it wrong because I got it wrong one time very recently. Like me and somebody this was clearly flirting, and I look for very specific language as well. So me and this person we were texting, and it was like a restaurant analogy of some sort, and when we got to a certain point of like dessert and calling dessert aftercare, but it was like a 7-course meal, and she's like, I could really like go for some of that. Yeah, I could use that. And what's that look like? Like really entertaining it. And then at the end of it, kind of like said, thanks, this was fun. But then I was like, what did I say? I don't remember exactly what I said, but whatever it was, it made me feel stupid after she was like, no, my boyfriend wouldn't like that. And I was like, oh shit. All right, I probably should have picked up on that somehow. Don't I do know how. Like you scroll through a person's Instagram, you see how recently they were with their person, and I guess like yeah, I didn't think anything of it because I couldn't really tell like if this was a long relationship or if it was a date. Because she said like again like if you listen to the podcast regularly, you've heard me say that we use language about like our partners, our boyfriends, girlfriends that like dehumanizes them. And she said, yeah, my source of that thing just left and I didn't get any of it. It wasn't my boyfriend. So I was like, oh, you available. You just dating. Some dude that you're dating, not interested in, just left. And it's amazing how context plays a role in these things because, like, that's what I heard. I heard some dude you are normally fucking didn't fuck you tonight. He went home. And now you're horny, basically. And that wasn't the case. I mean, it just ended up being actually it's my boyfriend and tonight just wasn't a sex night and I was kind of left high and dry and this conversation was very stimulating and flirty. Thank you for it. And it was just like a smooth, like it was a clean way of just navigating that, but I was just kind of like, fuck. Like, when else do I do this? Like, have I done this before? Is it something that's going to happen again? And so anytime these things happen, I'm able to just, like, readjust, recalibrate, and honestly get more oblivious because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. I don't want nobody screenshotting shit and sending it to somebody and being like, this is what Courtney said to me. So I don't want none of that miscommunication. And I've just, like, just refined and, I refined that a lot and just been like, yeah, we just gonna not do this. Like, if you interested, you gotta really fucking show me you interested. Like this most recent person who demonstrated interest, and we had a few days together. It was a good time, but I recognize that again, going back to the when people think they know me, they don't have to get to know me. There was a misfire in communication, and it came up when we were talking about like kids. And speaking about kids, she made a face. She was like, I just realized that we want different things. And I was like, oh, you just realized that. Like I didn't have the language for it, but it's like, damn, dude, I'm here. I didn't stay the night at your crib, and I'm gonna be here for a couple more days. Like, how does this gonna look for the rest of the time? And no matter how much I try to set the expectations, and it's not something you can say, it's something that needs to be experienced consistently. You can't just say one thing. You have to also be able to back it up with actions, and that's partly why I'm not really a fan of the long distance thing, because out of sight, out of mind, and you can really like get not desensitized. You can fall off. You can fall off from being on, quote, the program. I need to take a sip of water right now. Reach in, hold on. Because I'm going to keep doing this throat clearing thing, and that ain't going to sound good on the podcast. Give me 1 second, please. I guess I could have paused it and then took the sips, but yeah, here we are. This feels like such a rambly episode. I wish that I'm gonna try and have a conversation with somebody. It's been a while since I've been interviewing people about, excuse me, these topics, or just like having a shared conversation, dialogue, exchange. Because as I'm saying things out loud, more thoughts are coming up, and I'm wondering if wires are crossing and I'm being confusing at all. But I'll stand on this, man. Is like the way that the dating culture is because the leaders of the dating culture are not being leaders of the dating culture. Um, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that consistently, that we as men are not collectively setting the standards for ourselves. And the men who, women say, like, it's like a power thing. Women are like, men need to be more this way. Like, it's hot when a man ... and all this kind of does is put us in the mode of just doing what women want us to do rather than us doing what needs to be done, and then women seeing that and being attracted to it because that's ultimately what they're attracted to. For the women who date men, at least. And I've noticed a significant difference for myself between when I was playing football. It was like football is my focus. I got to go to practice. I got to go to games. And regardless of how pissed off somebody would be that we got to end our time early, or I got to, like I have things going on, like women love that shit. Because there was a period where I didn't have shit going on and I was in dry spell out the ass. And then, fast forward to me having podcast recordings, having meetings and nonprofit stuff, and like the way that I present myself, having lit up because this is a thing that I give a fuck about. I care about this. This is my passion. This is a thing that would arguably be my purpose. And this is also now my career because I'm paying myself now. These are the things that women are drawn to and attracted to. And I think that, a lot of times women don't know that on the surface. And I'm specifically thinking about like the most modern women that I know, because when we have conversations and I break it down to their situation, they're like, oh shit, yeah, you right, ha ha ha. And it's like, it's laughed off. It's like, yo, that's kind of a big deal that you don't know that, but you agree with it and you are willingly participating in uh, contradictory behaviors, because that's another thing too, is like we don't realize this, but our inconsistencies are off-putting. Like I tell people, who you hang out with kind of does determine how people perceive you. I was telling one of my friends, she was like, I really want a relationship. And it's like, yo, you hang out with people who clearly don't want a relationship, and you put them on social media more than you put yourself wanting a relationship out there on social media. So if somebody is interested in you, like them seeing that, it's going to make them think, oh, you're just another one of these kinds of people. Yeah, you should get to know people before making judgments, whatever. But again, like it goes back to men being men. We are who we are, and we have been who we have been. And we've been that way for however long. So it's like, are you going to devote your existence to trying to change a man or men to conform to you, or are you going to understand this about men and then just decide which one, like what kind of man is going to be the best for you based on their patterns of consistency, discipline, what they care about, how much time they have available, how much of their meat they're going to give to you, money, energy, attention, time, and what your requirements are. And are you realistic about those expectations? Are you realistic about what dating pool you're in? I hear again all the sixes. You want the six pack, 6 feet, 6 figures, 6 inches. Are you someone who you want that kind of guy physically? Are you the kind of person who that guy is attracted to? Like a lot of times people don't ask themselves these questions. And also, like, again, this is social media, because people who are navigating the real world, I think, know this shit. Like I have, who was I talking to? I was talking to a woman who was like, yeah, men ... and she fill in the blanks with what men do. And I was like, yo, you got the keys, you got the formula, but like your behaviors are very much contradicting, what you know to be true about this. Like, why are you saying you want this thing, but you continue to go for this thing? And that's not a conversation a lot of people are willing to have. They'll just dismiss it with, that was sexist, that was misogynistic, oh, that's because patriarchy. Like that doesn't assess the behavior and get to the root of it and then make us decide, okay, here's the new behavior going forward. All right. So again, it's really on us. We got to be consistent, y'all. Men, we got to be consistent. We got to be disciplined. We got to find the thing that we're supposed to do that thing, love that thing. And, unfortunately, like, we can't put looking for a partner first. Because in my experience, I've done that, and it's just been like, it's like sometimes you get one, sometimes maybe you do, but more often than not, it's not a sustainable thing. When I've put what's important to me down on the totem pole for the sake of a partner, it's just not worked out. It just hasn't. And I've become the most attractive, not physically necessarily, but overall, because there's this thing that I care about. There's this thing I'm invested in. I'm fully on go mode for, and I fucking do this. Like, I do this. And I give a fuck about this, and I'm getting better at it, and I'm aligned. And it's like an on switch, off switch. You're either attractive because this energy is being put out and it's on, or you're not attractive because there's no vitality to you, there's no liveliness to you. And also, again, we gotta stay consistent. I'm gonna keep pushing that narrative, man. We gotta be consistent. We gotta be disciplined. We gotta give a fuck, right? We gotta care about these things. And I listen to Mr. Lucario. I listen to FitX Fearless. I listen to Kevin Samuels. And people might not like this, but even with a lot of the stuff that, not the short clips of Andrew Tate or the Fresh and Fit podcast, but like if you listen to the whole episodes and recordings and you have more context, what you'll see are the consistencies there of how reality is and how it directly reflects what some of the problems are, which, again, the source of all of it is men. Like, regardless, like, it's entertaining to survey these women and talk about women and their issues or whatever, but all of this shit really comes down to men. I hate the fucking phrase men aren't men anymore, because that's not true. Men aren't men on the internet. Like, your man is going to be working. Like, I can't even tell you, when it was earthquakes and natural disasters and shit, like, me and my friends don't know about that shit unless it immediately affects us or family, right? And not to say, I'm the manliest of men, I'm the truest of men, but I'm fucking busy. And if I'm busy and not really making no money, I know the motherfuckers around me who busy and making money are busy and can't be caught up in this social media shit of trying to be more appealing to women. And like, it's a proximity thing. I have made a point to step away and allow myself to be more present in the real world and engage with what's happening around me. And it's been working out for me, because, again, like, it's made me realize just how much influence social media and the internet has had on me, making me do more of this, like, conforming shit in conflict with my values. And again, your value is directed at what your character, your values are. So it's not about being high value. It's about identifying what your value is, and then you want to pour your meat, money, energy, attention, time into that and allow for that to radiate, draw in and attract the people who are going to want to be with you, who belong there, who are aligned, and then creatively finding a way to put that out there. And that's where I'm at right now, is making an effort to put that out there. So yeah, that's I think that's good. A lot of the stuff that I say on the podcast, it feels safe to me to be able to say things that might get you canceled, like, oh, this is how men and women who date men interact. I think that's the most accurate way of saying it, because, again, like, I have real conversations with people, and even the people I follow on Instagram who say men need to ... like, they boyfriends don't even do that shit. Like, why is there these narratives being pushed, like, even with attraction, accept your body, love your body the way it is. And I spoke to a woman who, she was like, I used to be fat, like, I worked my ass off to look this good, and I'm proud of that. And the world shames me because I didn't just accept that I was fat and that I didn't like my body. Like, I should have just accepted it as it was. And when she told me that, like, that really put a perspective change on me too, in terms of body positivity. And not to say that, like, you should shape your entire opinion off of one exception to the general rule, but it makes me wonder, like, how many other people are out there who don't feel safe saying, you know, I'm very proud of myself for having lost all this weight, and I feel like I look good. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, without being attacked by people who haven't put that work in, who haven't done that, who might believe that they can't do that. Um, so it's really fucking phenomenal what happens when you just have real conversations with people. And that's one thing I love about what I do, is that it has made me a conversation. Because I used to be fucking awkward, y'all. I used to be so awkward in conversation. But here I am now, like, interviewing people and communicating my thoughts and feelings in a way that is aligned with what my purpose is, and with my passion, and with my career. So having that, all of those things overlap, like, I feel that I am the most attractive, the most high quality, high value that I have ever been in my entire life. And that's just simply because of consistency and a lot of my masculine traits. Like, the feminine aspect of me is just, like, able to pick up on the undercurrent, interview people, hold space, and be acknowledging and all that shit. But when I'm retreated into working, or when I'm like, yeah, when I'm retreated into working, that's where I'm at. Like, I'm in my masculine. Like, rejection, I'm fucking immune to that shit. When I'm filling out these grants and I'm emailing people, like, I get a little upset initially, but then it's like, all right, on to the next. And that's what we're missing with a lot of men, is just the ability to be able to, excuse me, do what needs to be done. And take on that sense of duty, like, not in a controlling way. And I think that this is where my femininity kind of fucks me over, because I kind of had this, like, I don't want you to like me because I scare you into liking me, or I intimidate you into liking me, or you feel like you gonna miss out if you don't like me now. Like, I want people to have the freedom to choose. I want you to fucking choose to be with me. I don't want to have to play this game. And again, shout out to Erica for saying I don't have to play the game. I can just opt out of it and transcend the whole idea of playing that game, doing that song and dance, because I know that was my bad. I was scooting and it made that, like, fart noise. But oh, damn, the yawn fucked up my thought process. Um, I know you see it. I know you see it. Nah. Uh, but yeah, I'm so grateful for the conversations with people that I've had that allow for me to be able to articulate this so well, because I don't know that I don't know. I've not been able to. I've not been able to really communicate this, and it feels right for me to talk about it now, especially with talking about my own dating experience. Oh, the femininity thing, like, repressing shit. Yeah, repressing my femininity looks like, God damn it, I forgot where I was going with that comment. I need to listen again and plug in what I want to say, and I don't think that'll work. That just takes up too much time. But I hope that you were able to keep up with me in this, like, ramble fest. No shade to anybody who has OnlyFans or anything like that. So if you've gotten upset or offended, like, talk to me about it. Don't be quick to just say, fuck Courtney, he's this and that and that. But, like, yeah, talk to me, challenge me. Because, like, I've spoken to women who have trouble dating, and there's a correlation between, how they put themselves out there, and, like, regardless of what y'all see on social media and what y'all post, like, how you feel in reality sometimes just don't line up. Like, the way that you feel, if you were to give up posting on Instagram all the time, scrolling on Instagram all the time, like, I know relationships that have been ruined, relationships that had potential that have been ruined because of social media, because of OnlyFans, because of, choosing to, on one end of the spectrum, say, I want the kind of man who would never pay for OnlyFans, and then be on OnlyFans and getting money and employed and money, having your lifestyle funded from OnlyFans, but then also bitching about not being able to find the kind of man that you want, who is going to be the kind of man who isn't going to like that his girl is on OnlyFans. Like there's this constant like back and forth push pull, and it's like, no, well, men should no, because then if men were 100% accepting of that all the time, like then you wouldn't want them. There wouldn't be a need. There wouldn't be a need in that sense to even have that kind of man. Like the kind of man who does one thing is going to be the kind of man that you do or don't want, and then the contradiction comes when it's like, okay, well, yeah, this person, he's attractive, he likes these things, he respects me, he values me, but like where is the like where's the line? And this is probably like hot topic, not really a place for a podcast on something positive for positive people because it's not related to herpes, but more conversations that I've been having that are real. People have been very receptive. I get more feedback from when I talk that real shit than when I do about herpes. And granted, that's there. The podcast episodes are there. They'll keep coming. But just in between that, man, I really hope that y'all are able to take things away from this, that you're able to put into your life and not just attach exclusively to your herpes diagnosis. Don't live life with the prioritization of herpes and your herpes diagnosis. And also don't live in this space of inconsistency where you thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm going to just do this thing for now. Like, perfect example is like a lot of dudes a lot of white dudes don't like the idea of their woman fucking a black dude. You see this in porn. The porn star's value goes down after she fucks a black dude. And I don't know if that's still the case, but I know that was something that I've seen in interviews. I used to be a porn enthusiast, y'all. And I was like, damn, that's messed up. When you do anal or when you do a BBC scene, it's like, oh, that's it. That was the peak of your career. Now your value is significantly lower. So, like, even with shit like that, man, like, it is what it is. You can call it what you want, racist, sexist, all of that. But at the end of the day, like, the outcome of it is this. And I think that we've gotten very far removed from looking at the long-term outcomes of decisions now. And because of that, like, people are struggling. People are struggling to date. People are struggling to maintain relationships because all this really does come down to is being able to be present. And when you're able to be present, you're able to be present with what's real, what's aligned, and what's going to be consistent, not necessarily where the inconsistencies are. So, yeah, I mean, take that for what it's worth. I, again, hope that there were things here that you were able to relate to your own life and find useful. I look forward to whatever feedback that, you have. If you got positive or negative feedback, like, help me calibrate this shit. And as always, donations are welcome. Courtney Brame on Cash App, Courtney Brame on Venmo, all one word. And then PayPal is something positive for positive people, and Patreon is something positive for positive people. All right, so men, let's go, man. Let's get it together. We gotta be our best. We gotta be the best option. And as far as people who date men, just understand that you want to look for somebody who has that discipline, who has that consistency. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself just bitching about the general population of men who are conforming on the internet based on what they see on the internet to what it is that you want. So if your relationships haven't worked out, like, start asking yourself those kinds of things, like where or how does this person, who is this person? How does this person show up for me? Like, how do I feel? Do I feel most of myself with this person? Yes, no. And you'll begin to see it. So that's where I'll stop it at. I'll stop it here. Please continue listening through episodes. And again, I welcome the engagement. Thank you.